So welcome. We have a rare October MiLLY Billies update with my man Andrew Geller, the Guilds, and my partner on many teams, Andrew Schellenberg. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing well.
I'm doing great.
Thanks.
Awesome. I'm excited to get it going.
Go district, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offers the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man, y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
So back in the district, it's I did a waiver wire show earlier today, and this is one that's been a long time coming. I've drafted a bunch of teams with Andrew Schellenberg. Anybody who watches the Go District knows that we partner up a lot. But this year we had the opportunity to partner up with our friend Andrew Geller. You know him. If you're watching this show, you're an FFPC player or an NFFC player. You know him as the Guilds. Highly successful fantasy football player, active guy on Twitter, Draft Sharks Invitational guy. Everybody knows who you are in the football field, but you are also a big time fantasy baseball player in the high stakes streets. And Andrew, why don't you tell everybody about the sweat you're going through right now? Because we're lucky to have Andrew here.
This is the right time to have him. I'm gonna love watching him look distracted this entire podcast.
I appreciate it. It kind of gives me like something else to keep my mind off of what's going on right now. But yeah, right now I'm in the hunt for it's the NFFC Online Championship, which is 150K up top, and I'm sitting in first right now. So we got games going on. The standings are moving up and down. I can't lose any more hair, so I mean that's a positive. But that's it. We got tonight and then tomorrow, and that's it. And it's a wrap. So I'm sitting around 250 points ahead of second right now. So that could change fast though in baseball. So it's kind of watch and just hope, just pray.
Yeah. Give the analogy you gave Andrew and I for what you consider that lead to be like for if Andrew and I were, leading an NFFC or an FFPC, how much would we be ahead based on what you're ahead right now?
Yeah, I would think going into like the final weekend of one of these tourneys, your team's up like 80, 90 points over the whole field, right? Or if you put like 130 up, 120 points, it probably ice it, but you still got that chance of someone, 10 spots back, putting up 200 burger, and you're sweating there on Sunday and Monday night. And so I would say 7 out of 10 right now is probably my confidence level. But I think this time tomorrow, I'll know for sure, if that's a 10 out of 10 or I'm fucked.
Yeah. So you basically, to put it for our degenerate gambler listeners out there, it would be like having an 8-team parlay and 7 have hit, except you have like a minus 300 going tomorrow night, and you need Florida State to cover against Duke is minus 300 or something like that. So
yeah, that's a lot better than my analogy too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just trying to get all the analogies in there.
I mean, it's a healthy lead, but it's not one where you can put your feet up at all yet. So.
Yeah. Well, I think I told you, I think that 7's about your caps. Like you said 7 out of 10, but I think you're like 7 out of 7. Like, I don't think that your max confidence can even get to 10 yet. So I think you're doing great at a 7. So
yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
How How many entries were in the 350 for the? So it's basically the same as it's called the RotoWire Online Championship, the same as the 350 football competition that Billy Wazowski took down last year.
Yep.
Baseball, they get even bigger numbers, I believe, don't they?
Yeah. So for this 2,388 teams are in this, and it's straight roto. So whoever's most points at the end takes it down, and then prizes go down from there. But it's just kind of the end game is like no other in fantasy baseball. It's just a grind and 6 months of just blood, sweat, and tears. It's a lot. Like right now, I'm just praying it ends, and then I could focus on fantasy football and just the waivers. That's like a dream right now.
You're dreaming of getting the Wednesday waivers. So Bryce Elder did horrible for you yesterday for the Braves.
Yeah.
Who are we rooting for tonight and tomorrow? Who are some of the main stars that we got to keep in our minds? If you're,
I got one bullet left. It's Sean Manaea, who's I think he's starting to pitch right now. 9:30 first pitch. As long as he doesn't get smoked, knock on wood. Like I don't even want to look at the game, but I had Rodon, but his agent Scott Boras said he shouldn't pitch anymore, so he's not going to throw tonight.
Oh shit! But
I think that could be a good thing too, because teams behind me need Rodon a lot more than I do. So it's kind of a wash, if you will.
Okay.
As long as Manaea goes out there, it gives me 5 2-earned runs. Nothing too crazy. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Nice. And a shout out to Frank Laprade in the chat. Frank is absolutely having a great season in football. More cowbell if you're going up against him in FFPC. His team is more cowbell, and he was spot on with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Big hat tip to you with that one, Frank. And he says that we need a sweat show with Andrew tomorrow. So if there's anyone watching that has any connection to any film crews in Central or South New Jersey, or anybody wants to come up from the Philly area, didn't follow Andrew around with like a camera tomorrow while we sweat it out, that could be some very good documentary footage. But yeah, that's amazing. You're up there. I know you put a lot of work into the baseball, and I think it's amazing when guys do really well in 2 sports. A friend of our show, Matt Modica. I know you do well. Vlad Selder does very well. There's a number of other guys that participate in both, and I think that's just such a grind where you're doing all these Sunday waivers, and then you've got to turn around and get yourself right for drafting football, and you're basically doing waivers and drafting consecutively and setting lineups, and then you get to this time of the year, and you're having to grind through football waivers and baseball waivers.
Yeah.
What is harder, doing the Sunday baseball waivers or doing the Wednesday waivers it's on a weekday?
Baseball for sure. Yeah, it's a whole different animal. I mean, you can't put in volume. I mean, some people do put volume in like they do football, but I'm not a huge volume guy in baseball, so it's I've been doing this the last few years just on minimal number of teams. But I would say like one roto team in baseball is probably like 4 or 5 football teams in terms of waiver wire work. So, imagine having, I don't know, 40, well, you guys do have that, but 40, 50 football teams is probably like 10 or, 15 baseball teams. So it's just different animals. But the month of September, when they overlap the 2 sports, that's when
it's just brutal.
It really hits the fan.
It's insane.
Yeah. I can't believe you had time to make it out to Vegas this year.
Yeah, that was intense. But at that time, I wasn't, I'm still pretty high up near the top, but I wasn't, closing in on a leaderboard. But it's not easy. Sometimes I even ask myself, I'm like, why do you do this to yourself? But
well, you do this to yourself because you're very good at it, and you're also going to take down a lot of money potentially this year too. So there's nothing wrong with that. You had a Scott Boras story today. What was going on with that?
So I had Rodon as one of my pitchers, and there was a blurb that came out yesterday that his agent Scott Boras came out and said he shouldn't pitch because he reached his innings limit. So this is his agent saying that, and he was already locked in my lineup, so there was nothing I could do, and that's exactly what happens. He was supposed to pitch tonight, so I had him going against Manaea. So I figured, good chance I get 1 win at least, and maybe get some good ratios, but. he's done. His agent said no more. The team listened, and that's it. So he's in a lot of lineups right now, and people are getting a zero. But at this stage of the tourney, there's a lot of zeros in a lot of these lineups. Just the nature of the game. Players are getting pulled. Pitchers are getting pulled. Ending the season, they don't want to risk injury. So it's kind of like just a crapshoot these last 2 days, and you just kind of hope that you're on top at the end, essentially.
Well, we wish you nothing but the best of luck and a ton of respect. I know a lot of high stakes football people are really, really pulling for you now, including Nick Costantino from Go Bills, who's in the chat, who says the fantasy baseball grind is so much harder than football. I'll take your word for it, Nick. I got enough fab to do in one sport, but that's just awesome. So
yeah, and on that note, even and Frank earlier too, I get so many people are DMing me, just take it down, good luck, all these well wishes. So I appreciate all the support from not just baseball, but from the football community too. So it's interesting to see everyone comes out and shows their support. So definitely appreciative.
Yeah,
no, it's awesome.
If you're not rooting for the Guilds to win, I wish gonorrhea upon you. So
Or that, yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you, Shelly. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's Guilds or get the fuck out for me right now.
Yes.
Man. Yeah.
So, that's definitely a lot of respect for you doing that, and we hope you close it out really, really well. But we are not here to talk all baseball. This is not a baseball podcast. We are a fantasy football podcast, and we had an opportunity to split a main event team this year. I really wish we would have done 3 together because our one team right now is not going so well. It's like a number of things kind of piling on each other. I'm watching you intro this team. I love this. This team stinks so much, and we loved it. But you keep going. Sorry for interrupting. Please. So we will basically go through the team now. I'm gonna add the draft to the screen.
It looked great on paper, right?
We love this team. We just kept texting each other that this team fucks. This team's great. This is like auto champ, and this team is off the rails.
We had a number of issues. Almost every player here.
So this was a slow draft. Obviously, we did a slow draft because there's 3 of us. It's difficult to do a three-headed live draft. So again, hat tip to Go Bills on doing that. But we took DeAndre Swift at the number 11 pick. I think that was a pick that we were unfortunate with injuries. I think he looked great, and we got Jamal Williams. So that pick was not the problem. Devontae Adams has been mixed. He's been mixed. Can we say that?
But also not the problem either, because I think and let's pause on each of these picks because I kind of remember most of them. I think the only questions there, we really went back and forth and we were using Mojo, right? I think Pitts was an option. I think CeeDee Lamb was an option. And I think what we came down to was the unique combinations of players, but then ended up opting for Adams for, again, player in his prime, hoping for the continued breakout as opposed to an age cliff. And I don't think he's age cliffed at all. I just think that Raiders team is a little bit weirder than we expected. But I don't think that we can begrudge the pick because I think the only one of the 3 that we were considering that would have been a clear smash was the CeeDee Lamb. He's looked good. But I mean, had we taken Pitts there, we're hating life even more, perhaps.
If we take Pitts there, we're not even having this podcast. We're hiding.
So we have the podcast 4 weeks ago. We're not having it now. That's for damn sure.
100%. We would have been very excited at our DeAndre Swift Pitts team a couple weeks ago. Especially, we would have patted ourselves on the back for taking him over Mark Andrews. How sharp are we? We're going to go with the unknown upside. But at the end of the day, we did consider Pitts there to show you just how much we hate Arthur Smith at this point of the year. But again, you bring up CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is getting a ton of targets right now. Do we anticipate CeeDee Lamb maintaining this target share that he's seen with Cooper Rush the last 2 weeks? When you factor in Michael Gallup coming back, you factor in Dalton Schultz now there, and Dak Prescott coming back. Do you guys think that that's going to continue?
I think he's looked good.
Yeah, I think he looks great. I think he looks good.
Yeah, I think he's you're gonna look up in the year. He's gonna be like wide receiver 4 or 5, something like that. Yeah.
So I would probably take him ahead of Devontae Adams if we were redrafting today.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's that. I don't think they're going to be that far off. I think like that could go either way. I think that might come down to like, touchdowns and smash games. I think they're both going to be right there. Where we started to have issues is when we get to the third round. We took George Kittle, where we were happy to get Kittle. We talked about potentially going with a wide receiver, but Kittle, Waller had gone. We went George Kittle. How disappointed are we right now in kind of the chain of events here? It's actually unbelievable.
It's
Trent Williams. It's not the quarterback play. To me, it's Trent Williams goes down and Kyle Shanahan says, I have this amazing blocker, and now I'm going to use George Kittle to chip on every single play, and I'm gonna not target him, but I'm going to be successful because he's such a mauler of a blocker. I mean, how fucked is this situation? I don't usually curse on the go, but I'm really cursing now because Kyle Shanahan and Arthur Smith, I'm having to talk about both these guys tonight. Can we talk about George Kittle here?
Okay, hold on. Before you do George Kittle, can we just explain the situation that we just needed 15 fucking points out of Kittle and Ayuk last night to win a matchup? And look, we're 2-2, so all's not totally lost, but our points are low.
No, I think we're 1-3. Actually.
We're 1-3. We're so bad. Okay, 1-3. Look, we just needed 15 out of Kittle and Ayuk. Yes. And it's just unreal that we can't get 15 out of those guys. Okay, so now we can talk about Kittle. I want to make sure I explain the situation of Monday Night Football, our sweat last night, and how we were about to pod the day after.
So when they had the touchdown where Kittle couldn't drag a foot, like let's talk about that because I'm giving Kittle the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
but George Kittle last week had like 4 catches. This week he has, I believe,
2.
What did he end up with 2 catches for 25 yards?
I think it ended up being 2. Maybe 2 for 23 or something.
He had an opportunity to catch a touchdown pass, and he couldn't drag a foot. Like, to me, George Kittle usually makes that catch. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I think he also maybe has lost a lot. Guys.
I was going to say, I mean, he hasn't been an elite option since 2018, 29. I mean, it's been some time. I feel like he's living off his name value, and that's why he's getting overdrafted every year, seemingly. But I took him too with Mike P in one of our drafts. In one of our mains, it's not doing so hot either. In the 4th round, I texted him last night. I'm like, Mike, I said we took an offensive lineman in round 4. How do you feel about that? But
shout out to Joe King. If we had Gerald Everett, I think we would do the same thing. I mean, I think that, like Gerald Everett has looked better, and they used Gerald Everett. You're
taking Higbee over Kittle the rest of the season, right? Not even thinking twice on that.
You're right.
Theo hesitated. Maybe not. Okay.
I mean, maybe not for the season, but I definitely would start him next week. I need to see something different.
Yeah. Like he got 14 targets last night.
So then we get very excited because at this point in the year, Travis Etienne had basically if he was a stock, he peaked in the mid-second, but then there was a correction. James Robinson looked like he was coming back. Travis Etienne ended up dropping to the 4th round. I think the lowest we saw him go in a main was maybe 410. We took him here at the 402. I still have some hopes for Travis Etienne. I know Andrew does as well.
Me too.
I'm not giving up. I know a lot of people, it's very, I'm sure people are going to pan us for listening to this, but at the end of the day, it's James Robinson, I don't think will hold up for the year. I think we'll have some weeks of Travis Etienne. I don't like the fact that JaMychal Hasty mixes in now, but I think that if Robinson were to miss some time, Etienne could end up being, a RB, 15 or higher type guy. I believe in his talent, but it's a very frustrating pick. And I think it's very frustrating because we like drafting for unknown upside. And I think the 2 running backs that unknown upside drafters were drafting at the running back position were Javonte Williams and Travis Etienne. So to me, it's just a very frustrating where you read it and it doesn't go your way. but I will continue to bet on younger guys that I think are talented and have receiving upside. What are your guys' thoughts on ETN?
So I think similar to you, Theo. I think, for now, I don't think you could start him right now at this point, but I do see, like, if you're lucky enough to advance into the champ round or something, and I could see him being a fixture in lineups in the postseason for sure. I was just going to say, looking at this draft board, I mean, look how many busts there are in the top 4 rounds. I mean, there's so many. There's never been more busts in fantasy than ever this year. I feel like early on. I mean, it's just littered with landmine after landmine. It's just crazy.
What? Yes. So let's maybe we go back to ETN. I don't really care. Not fucking killing.
You're the Jacksonville guy.
What? Defer to you. I think I said on the tailgate that I'm still in on ETN. I think I probably I don't think he was the start this week when the way the points shook out, but I'm encouraged by how some of the game script flipped a little bit with ETN without out touching James Robinson this week. And I really do think that watching every single snap of the Jaguars, he looks like by far the faster player. Like, yeah. I feel like that James Robinson run in week 3, right, where he hit the 4th and 1, the 50-yard touchdown. Like, I think that ETN hits that just the same if he's in during that play. So like I'm discouraged by how much James Robinson is used to begin with, but I am encouraged by how fast ETN looks. And I think this is the way the Jaguar games are going to go from here on out. I think it's going to be friendly towards ETN. And hey, look, with our shit team, maybe we're starting and maybe we're not. But yeah, I agree with Gilds with what you said. Like if you can somehow sneak him in with a better team into the champ rounds. Yeah.
I'll pose this to both of you. You need a James Robinson injury for ETN to hit his ceiling, though, right?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Yes.
Which I think is something like that. I don't know if it's going to be a major injury, but I think just with the longer season and the workload he's receiving and the fact he's, a few weeks here or there, I think there's also a scenario where Robinson misses a few weeks, ETN gets his opportunity, runs with it, and it's a split committee with ETN getting a lot more receiving work, and we could get some starts out of ETN where he's being utilized like we think he can as a receiver. So, again, it's very frustrating with the ETN pick. And then we have
don't move on yet, Theo, to round 5.
No, go ahead. Talk as long as you want about this one. Let's talk it out.
No, I'm off ETN. Because I don't want to totally like just bemoan every pick that we made. But like going back to the point that Gilds you were making, 3-11-4-2. Like, what would we have conceivably done differently? Like, I can't. This is one where I can't remember.
Josh Allen. We should have just taken Josh Allen with one of those 2 picks. And at the end of the day,
in hindsight, but I don't even think we had other considerations. Like, I don't even know.
Jalen Waddle was a consideration.
Did we throw out Waddle?
You talked about Jalen Waddle.
Okay, all right, okay, good. I was setting you up to give me the compliment for the Waddle thing.
Yes,
but no, okay, fine, Waddle, but like I don't think that we would have done Waddle and somebody else even if we go Waddle over Kittle, even at 4-2, I think that we're like, holy shit, we got either Kittle or ETN at 402. Like we're going to end up with at least one of those 2 players again if we're redrafting without the benefit of hindsight.
So Andrew, me and you, our initial reaction is usually to go hero or B. We would have been, if we would have gone away from the Kittle pick and the ETN pick and just gone wide receiver.
Williams Waddle,
and we would have
Devontae. I mean, that's probably what it would have been.
Waddle, like, our life would be a lot easier. Yeah. But I think that what I think will change, and this is kind of like it's really off topic, but I've posed this to a couple people on pods lately. Davis Maddock talked about this a little bit the other day. It was a really, really nice conversation we had. Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson are in like a tier of their own. It is a 5 point or more drop between QB3 and QB4 right now. Do you guys think when we're sitting down next year in Vegas and drafting, do you think people are going to value the truly elite quarterback a little bit more? Because I think that's kind of where we're heading, where it's kind of like, a lot of, I'll say sharp drafters and sharp money did not like to take the first quarterback off the board. But if you just have Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or Jalen Hurts, your teams are doing well. You can make mistakes at other places if you hit them. And I think that we might be seeing like a like a throwback era where these top quarterbacks might start going a little bit higher. Like I'm talking about like 3rd round Josh Allen if he continues to smash.
Well, first off, I totally agree. And I think this year, especially that the quarterbacks are dropping too far. I even tweeted, something the other day where I said, the top 5 quarterbacks drafted are like the top 5 quarterbacks in fantasy right now. It's like, and then it falls off a cliff. I was trying to leave drafts with, whatever that 6th, 7th round quarterback, whether it was Lamar, Kyler, or Hurts. I wanted one of those 2nd-tier elite quarterbacks. And you're kind of seeing that bear out early on here. But yeah, to your point, I think quarterbacks will rise, and I think they should rise next year. So yeah, you're going to see 2nd round Josh Allen next year. Lamar's going to be right there again. These guys put up 40 points any week. It's like, you could have Kirk Cousins. I'll draft the guy giving me a 40 burger on Sundays. So yeah, I think they're worth it.
I think that the people are very, very good at analyzing the quarterback position. We talk about all these busts at ADP, but you don't really see the quarterback busts. I guess you could say Kyler Murray. Like I have Kyler Murray on some teams. Kyler Murray's been fine. He's just not elevating you. He's not elevating you. But again, like people don't really, that's like the one position that people analyze extremely well is quarterback. And I think that the market's kind of adjusted. You get these quarterbacks that have rushing ability and they're leading hypercharged offenses. So we see like Philly, Buffalo, they're two of the best offenses in the whole league, and Baltimore. They all average like 28 or more points, and they all like they're just loaded. So I don't know. I think next year you have that, and then you also have a factor that this year's best running backs are all old as shit.
Jeez, so like zero RB next year is going to be a sight to behold. I'll say that. It's going to be wild. I think I might be a 0 RB guy even.
No, you're going to love zigging when everyone's going or zagging when everyone's going on in the 0 RB. Like this is your time to shine now when everyone goes in on it.
But on the quarterback, so I'll say this too. I think it's dependent too a lot on the format, right? So we play the big tournaments, big fields. So in those championship rounds, you know what I mean? You have a Lamar, you have a Josh Allen, you have a leg up, I feel like, on the rest of the competition, right? You're going to get those 35, 40-point weeks where another team's going to have to start, Derek Carr, or a Cousins or a Stafford or something like that. I mean, you have, to me, you got that guy in round 6, 7, even later sometimes. So to me, that's a leg up on the competition. And, when you're playing for these overalls, you want to have that kind of that cheat code. And I feel like Lamar, Josh Allen are kind of that cheat code for a lot of fantasy teams. So
another player that is going to beat his ADP, I think that the Tyreek Hill was undervalued here. Tyreek Hill there's like eight teams in the NFL that Tyreek Hill has more combined receiving yards than their entire team. Tyreek Hill has been such a smash player, and this draft we're in here, he goes at the 211. I saw our friend Austin Martin, I think, is sitting on a Tyreek Hill like 308 share, something gross.
Jesus.
Tyreek Hill, like that's another one, like a lesson learned. Why were people so hesitant to draft Tyreek Hill this year? And like, do you think the reasons were kind of stupid? Like, they gave him so much money. And I do have one main event team where I took him at the 2-3 turn. So I wasn't fully off of him, but I wish I had a lot more. Maybe talk about what his success will do moving forward.
Yeah. I think a lot of people just thought, they knew he was a special talent, but I feel like they thought Kansas City, the system and the offense was a major part of that. And then Tua, everyone was kind of down on Tua before the season, rightfully so. So you kind of add those two components together. Tyreek was just like, oh, I don't want to touch him, in the middle second or, early second. And even Vegas, I remember looking at props for Tyreek. It was very conservative. I feel like it was like 82 catches, like 1,000 yards was his over. So, even Vegas was pretty down on him going into the season. So, yeah, I don't know. I think he probably fell a little too far, but I think it was fair to have some skepticism going in with his new situation.
All the new situation wide receivers seem to be smashing. Like Tyreek Hill beating his ADP. AJ Brown is going to beat his ADP. And Hollywood Brown right now is wide receiver 6 overall. He's been on an unbelievable tear. Nobody's even talking about Hollywood Brown. So, like, the only one that's on a new team that is really stinking it up is Allen Robinson, which wasn't a guy that we were really drafting anyway. But I think, like, the takeaway for me is you see all the success for the rookie wide receivers and you see all the success for the wide receivers on new teams. I think, like, the whole narrative that wide receivers don't do well on new teams, it started getting crushed with the Stephon Diggs when in 2019. You saw a couple other wide receivers have success that year on new teams, and I think it's just completely out the window. I think that NFL offenses are good. They figure out the smart coordinators figure out a way to put guys in spots where they're going to win, and I think, like, you can just plug and play guys. You even look at, like, Odell Beckham last year, where Beckham switched teams and he goes from, like, a situation with a bad quarterback and a bad offense to a really good offense, and he had fantasy success. So I think that narrative is, like, one of the big takeaways for me this year. Like, I'm not scared of any wide receiver in a new situation, and I think it's usually a beneficial situation because these guys oftentimes are picking their teams, or the team traded a shitload to get the guy. So that's kind of like another big takeaway for me.
Yeah, and I think it's such a passing league right now. It's like, to me, that doesn't matter. You know, teams are passing the ball, you know, at higher rates than ever. It's like, I thought you were going to say Devontae Adams because, you know, I don't know what the situation is there. I don't know if it's just Carr and the offense is kind of a mess as a whole. But, yeah, I'm kind of surprised how little he's done since that first week, I think it was.
Yes, especially because the targets are open with, you know, Chef Renfro out.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't get it.
It's deeply depressing, Chef Renfro being out. That's my boy. I don't have a whole lot of Chef, but I was pulling for him this year. But, like, Adams, I'm pulling up the.
I mean, he's done nothing for like 3 weeks, I feel like, right? He had the big opener. Or is that week 2? And then he's
right now. So right now he's wide receiver 8 in PPR. So it doesn't
feel like it though, right?
No, it doesn't feel as impactful. But right now he's outscoring AJ Brown in PPR scoring. He's outscoring Cortland Sutton. He's outscoring Christian Kirk. He's outscoring Jamar Chase, and he's outscoring CeeDee Lamb.
Do we think he's doing bad because he's attached to our shit team? And he's actually doing better than
I think it's more like you said, week 1 was really exciting and everything. I think it's not quite as smashy, but again, like we all talk about, like, the great success that Hollywood Brown has had. We just talked about him, and Hollywood Brown has 2.9 more points than Devontae Adams. So, like, I think just kind of hang in there, Devontae Adams managers.
That Carr scares me. That Carr always scares me, man. There's just people want to call him elite or close. This guy, I don't trust Carr at all. You know, he'll look great one game and then he'll be terrible the next. I don't know.
You're so out on Carr. You're calling him David Carr.
I know. Yeah.
You're really putting the stink eye.
Yeah,
on. Love it.
I mean, he's solid, but there's just something that is missing with him, and especially in fantasy, right? It's like you can't count on him. You just can't.
I have one Raiders. The team just kind of fell this way. It was a Raiders stacked team with Carr and Adams and Waller, and the team is somehow 3-1 and has put up some decent points. I hit on a couple other guys in that draft, but you're right. Carr doesn't elevate anybody fantasy wise. He's more of a fill-in guy, and he's more of has always been more of a streamer. But they have a big game this week against Kansas City. Adams will be on display, but again, we can't get too worried about wide receiver 8 overall. What's your guys' take on Zach Wilson being back with the Jets? We had Elijah Moore last week, had a big target share in the first half, and then did pretty much nothing in the second half. He still saw his season high in yardage, but again, it was like 53 yards. It's been very disappointing for Elijah Moore managers in both redraft and in Dynasty. What's your thoughts on him? And maybe you guys could both touch on Breece Hall as well when we're talking about these Jets.
Want to go ahead, Shelly?
Yeah, wheels up on Breece Hall. I think like, clearly his usage is way up. Talking about zero RB teams, I liked Michael Carter in those first couple of weeks, right, when they were getting the training wheels off of Breece Hall. But I think that's almost, I don't know if Michael Carter is going to be a complete zero because, probably, pretty successful as a passing down back. But I just see as the weeks wear on, it's pretty clearly to me going to be a Breece Hall backfield. And we should be thankful for any of the fast starts that maybe a Michael Carter helped get some teams off to. But, for those who invest in the Breece Hall in the 4th, 5th round, I think they're going to be rewarded. As it comes to the pass catchers, I think I'm going to be pretty patient. I think that, again, the way that we probably drafted our teams, Elijah Moore is maybe a 4th wide receiver, maybe Garrett Wilson, a 4th, 5th wide receiver on some of them. So I think that we've got some opportunities to wait. I don't really know. Like, it just, I'd hate to hang my hat on. Yes, I love that Zach Wilson's back, or like, no, I hate it. I'd rather Joe Flacco. I think either one of those takes is an absolute, like, you're ready to get burned with whatever position you take. But I think what you can take away from it is like solace in the fact that there's clearly talent with Elijah Moore and there's clearly talent with Garrett Wilson. Just the question is whether you can time, their explosion weeks, or you get lucky when the bye weeks pop up. So that's sort of my takeaway from it all. Is I think that once the bye weeks start, Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson will be. I think you'll be pretty happy with them as wide receiver 4s, or maybe even 3s, just depending on the situation here in the next couple of weeks.
Andrew, your thoughts?
I'm surprised. I'm probably more bullish than you are, especially Garrett Wilson. I would have thought you'd be a little more positive there. I think he's in your lineups moving forward. To me, he's, you saw translate onto the field. He just pops when he's out there. So, if Zach Wilson can just be, somewhat efficient, and he's mobile. He's got the big arm. So, I could see a lot of big weeks for both Moore and Wilson.
Yeah. Maybe it's, I don't mean to brag situation, but I had I started playing NFFC a little bit more this year, and I had a silver bullet that's now it's absolutely dead because I had Javonte Williams. But I was debating between Olave and Garrett Wilson as my wide receiver 4 spot, and I put Olave in, and I really struggled with that decision. I love them both, but maybe I was just more partial to Olave's performance because I saw it kind of on an island game on Sunday.
I love Olave.
Yeah.
We really should all try to refer to him as Olave Bay. I want to get that thing going. Bitcoin never really took off, but I think Olave Bay could be the nickname that sticks. Breece Hall is such a stud. I have one dynasty team which is kind of like spinning its wheels in the middle of the league, and I'm trying to make an aggressive move of sending Najee Harris plus to get Breece Hall, because I think Breece Hall next year is going to be like, not to keep getting back to, we're talking about this year, but like when we start projecting running backs that we think could get drafted very highly next year, I think Breece Hall will be one of them, especially with his receiving ability. He's such a good receiver, and the Jets recognize that right away, which is nice. And then to get back to your Carter take, this past week, Carter saw like 2 targets. So he's kind of a handcuff for a lower level offense.
Yeah.
Right now, Michael Carter, like if you're in a trading league and you can get something for Carter, like consider doing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I traded Breece. I traded Michael Carter for a 2023 second in a league earlier this offseason, and like the first couple weeks of the year, I felt kind of dumb. I'm like, I could have been using him. I think that was a good trade for me.
Definitely.
And then regarding Garrett Wilson, I'm with you. I think that he finally is playing more snaps than Corey Davis, and running more routes. So like he's going to have smash games. He's just too good a player not to. So I'll give the Jets the benefit of the doubt. Last week they got the win. It was Pittsburgh, and that's a difficult team to play against. Miami is still difficult to go against, but it's a divisional game. I'll be looking for one of those wide receivers to maybe step it up. I'm just very tired of seeing Corey Davis eat in garbage time. I'm like, I watch Corey Davis, and he gets these points, and it's always the fourth quarter, and it's always nonsense, and those points should be going to one of my guys, Wilson or more. So I'm hoping for no more Corey Davis points. That's kind of my goal there.
Yeah, I was going to say too, real quick on the backfield. I was on the podcast with Balky, and I said I didn't think we'd see like a JT kind of outcome for Hall. But I'm starting to think, the more you see him, obviously they're getting him more usage. You could see the talent disparity on the field. I mean, I could see this as kind of like a JT Hines situation with the Jets, with Carter playing the Hines role, and Brees just smashes in the second half of the year. So, I mean, he's getting nice touches right now. So I can't imagine his role is going to diminish as we move along. So, to me, it's Brees Hall. It's wheels up. Carter owners, like you said, it's kind of like a handcuff, desperation flex, right? You don't feel good throwing them in there. But to me, Hall right now is RB2 every week. And then with his role growing, I think, he could be in that RB1 conversation, not too far away. So,
and it was really like, that was the argument for drafting him where you were going to draft him is, you thought he'd be playing great football down the stretch. I'll say, to me, the only thing that could bring Brees Hall down, it's the one X factor with younger running backs that are seeing a decent amount of touches, is how they handle the NFL grind. Like, I think sometimes these guys break down when you don't want them to. Other times they just keep running with it and get better as the season goes, like we saw with Jonathan Taylor, like we saw with Miles Sanders his rookie year. But Brees Hall, he's a stud. So I'm super bullish on him. Try to get him in as many dynasty leagues as possible. I want to give a quick shout out to the chat. I'm not as good as JD on keeping these things going, but the chat is lit tonight. ML, Joe King, 1912,
Wheeler, Wayne Ellis,
Wheeler, Wayne Ellis. We have so many.
Mentioned Frank.
Yeah, and Frank. We've a lot of people tuning in, and a lot of people being active. So I'm going to get to one question here. Well, not really a question, but Wheeler says Hollywood is one of my guys, and again, I have a lot of Hollywood Brown as well. I have probably too much Hollywood Brown. I have him in high stakes leagues. I have him in dynasty leagues. What is your take on how he's going to do when DeAndre Hopkins comes back? Do we think that this is gonna hurt Hollywood, or do we think that this is something where the pie grows larger, Hollywood is what he is, and D-Hops maybe just finds his own role?
Yeah, it's hard to not think he's going to take some sort of hit once D-Hop is back, right? I guess it also depends what Hopkins looks like after he comes back. I know a lot of us just think he's going to kind of resume that elite wide receiver production, wide receiver one, throw him in there, but it's still yet to be seen. So I would definitely dock him a little bit, Hollywood, maybe from not a top 12 guy, maybe the top 15, 20-ish receiver once he's back, but he's still a guy you're going to be thrown out there every week, wide receiver 2, with spike week. So
yeah,
I'm not too worried. Maybe the upside ceiling takes a little hit overall, but yeah, he's going to be fine.
I just need the Arizona offense to improve in general, and I'm hopeful that Hopkins' presence just increases the size of the pie. Just in general, like I just love to see the consolidation around Hollywood, Rondale, and Hopkins. And kind of leave it there. And if we need a little bit of Ertz sprinkled in to make some other people happy or whatever, but something needs to be fixed in Arizona. And what I am more worried about is again, lower cost option than Hollywood or Hopkins is the Rondale. He looked great coming back last week. Immediately, Greg Dortch went almost to like a 0, whatever. Rondale, I think that I'm going to get it wrong, but I think his ADOT went from like 1.3 last year, something around 10 in his first game back. So my question more so is, did Rondale ruin Greg Dortch, but then Hopkins is going to now ruin Rondale once Hopkins is back? So like I still like the idea of Hollywood for sure. I'm hopeful the pie grows larger, but my bigger risk is like, are all of my sneaky 10th round or whatever Rondale shares just going to be totally dead in the water if the Cardinals continue to play like they play the first 4 weeks. I think that's the more likely outcome there.
So to me, you won't see a 17 target game for Hollywood, but I think that he's solidly a 10 target a game guy.
Yeah.
And I think that Hollywood will maintain a nice target share. D-Hops is interesting because, you bring up how he looks when he comes back. By all accounts, he's healthy. And, I think that
and some of his metrics, his usage last year dipped a little bit, right?
He was on we don't know what the guy was on. I think he was on maybe some SARMs or something like that. I don't think it was something insane. Where
is that designer steroids there? So I'm not in the steroid game. Can you give a little in depth on what you just said?
Listen. When you go to the gym on Long Island, you're going to bump heads with a couple people on SARM.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Got it.
It's not as hardcore as you would think. So okay. I'm hopeful that the D-Hops is going to come back and kind of not necessarily be his old self. But I think he's like a 20% target share guy. I think he can be treated. In an ideal scenario, you have 2 wide receiver 2 type guys in Hollywood, and D Hops, as we'll call him, like a wide receiver 3 with right at that borderline, and then Rondell Moore could potentially be a flex. You bring up Rondell Moore with the ADOT. It was his first game back. He had like a 15% target share. And he's a guy that the coaching staff has kind of been building up all year. Kingsbury I would imagine he's coaching for his job right now. I think that there's pressure on him to win. And I think that offense is going to have to do a little bit better. Zach Ertz has also seen a lot of targets. I think he could also kind of concede some targets when D-Hops comes back. So we're kind of hopeful with that one.
What do you got? Sorry, Theo. I was going to say, what do you guys think of Kyler, though? I feel like he doesn't start playing, right, until like the second half starts. Like, what are they doing the first half?
We're so heavily invested in Kyler. This hurts, too.
Oh, my God. He's my highest own. I know you guys are heavy on him. So, it's just maddening to, see these first halves of these games. And he's not running. I mean, he ran a little bit last week, but he doesn't run.
Have they scored 0 points in the first quarter of the games? Is that still running?
They're so unprepared. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Ugh.
So shout out to Wayne Ellis. D-Hop's target share has shrunk every year the last 3 years. It was down to 18% last year. But I agree with Wayne on your take that Marquise is the alpha there. 18%, I think would be fine though. I think he steps right back into that one. I think
you think he's going to be the alpha? Yeah, I don't know about that.
What's that?
You think Marquise is going to stay the alpha there once?
Can you have a 5'8" alpha NFL offense?
Maybe it's not necessarily an alpha per se. I think that maybe on a must convert third down, Kyler might be looking for D-Hops. But I think at the same time, Hollywood's going to get his 10 targets. So it's
sure.
do we look at like an alpha on volume, or do we look at him as like a guy who commands big game timely targets? So to me, it's kind of like a semantics thing for how are we defining an alpha? At the end of the day, I think if you drafted Hollywood Brown where you drafted him, and he right now he's wide receiver 6 overall. I think if he can stay a top 15 wide receiver, I think you'd probably take that. Would you take that, Andrew? Yeah. I think that's realistic. Wanted to get to just 1 or 2 more offenses here. Right now, we'll stick with Jacksonville. Christian,
hold on. I like that you completely shied away from reviewing the rest of our shit team. But I want to continue with the offense. No. Continue with the offenses. I just like that we've moved away from the team.
We hit on Dubs, man. Round 11.
Do we need to talk about Kadarius Toney? How we have a Kadarius Toney share?
Do you know how we didn't take the clock down a lot, guys? I think we took the clock down to like 20 minutes on that pick, and we debated Toney versus Devonta Smith for forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, aside from one smash week from Devonta, like that looks like a 0 versus a 0 debate.
We had
clearly you'd rather have Devonta, but
it was so much stress this summer on that particular debate, Andrew.
Yeah.
Me and you went back and forth on Devonta versus Kadarius Toney multiple times over, where we're just like, which one of these second-year wide receivers is the one to get? Devonta Smith has had his massive smash game, but the problem with that is he was doing it on people's benches.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
Devonta Smith, that smash game, and shout out to Fantasy Mojo if you're listening, and I'm not sure where you will even pull this up at this point, but what percent of FFPC Main Event Team started Devonta Smith in his 30-point game. I bet you it was 10%. Like, it's got to be super duper low. So
he had a 0, right? The prior week. So
right.
Yeah.
The first week, that's kind of another takeaway this year is.
Oh, no. Sorry. He had a 0 the first week. He scored like, I think 15 fantasy points in week 2.
Yeah.
So he probably was in a decent amount of lineups week 3. That's when he had that massive week.
I guess you're right on that one. I don't think that there was, I think people were still not kind of over the moon with the bounce back though. And the first week was also the Jeffo Okuda, who's been shutting everybody down.
Yeah.
And we didn't even know about that. And then after what he did that to Justin Jefferson, people were like, oh, by the way, he was defending Devonta Smith. We're like, oh, thank you. That knowledge would have been great week 1 when we actually started Devonta Smith. But, why would you put him on Devonta Smith and not AJ Brown? But who knows what people are thinking.
Okay, so hold on. Before the offenses, hold on.
Yeah.
Fields, totally agree. Romeo Dubs, great pick. We could talk about that, or I just one last thing before we move on to just other more positive. Is our team dead? Because I got to tell you guys, I love saying not dead yet when my bets are still alive. I think our team's fine.
I don't think we're dead. I just think
we're dead.
And I'm not trying to we're used to having successful teams. It's hard to deal with the early adversity. And it's difficult, but I don't think it's dead. I think we've got some guys that are ascending. Also throw out, we have Greg Dulcich, who's super interesting to me right now. Dulcich as a guy, because Albert Okwuegbunam had 1 snap last week.
No, not dead yet, Wayne. No, don't say dead.
Not dead yet. Wayne,
not dead yet.
Wayne, we're not quite dead. We have, and Wayne, I'll bring this up. We have Jamal Williams. Andrew was not a fan of the handcuffing, but you're pulling the handcuffing now, Andrew.
Shelley was not a fan of the handcuff. I think Gilds was
well. The funny
Gilds, of course.
The funny part about this draft of ours, I mean, we got Gibson late, right? He's been fine so far, and now we got Williams in there, and it's like we missed on the receivers that we went for early.
Well, we got hurt. We got hurt by Lance Swift.
Yeah.
Lance Swift on injuries, and then Kittle and whatever.
Okay, Ayuk's been disappointing. I mean, let's be honest. Debo. I mean, Debo's Debo. That guy's a stud. It's like Ayuk. I don't know if he's ever going to be much of anything. You might just be
this was mean, Joe.
This was not a nice tweet,
Joe. I didn't like that at all. That was
Joe. Detroit is leading the league in yardage, and Detroit is averaging 28 points a game. So we'll be happy to have the Detroit starting running back every single week. Unless Jamal Williams goes down, because we do not have Craig Reynolds on this team.
Okay, so, one last stupid thing. How bad have we botched our tight end too with the amount of fab money and dumb fad money that we've poured into Kylan Granson and Jawan Johnson and we just made an absolute mockery of the tight
end.
That
just showed you how bad Kittle is, right? That we're searching for a tight end after taking ours in round 3. It's just an indictment on Kittle. It's just ridiculous. Looking for anything to throw in that spot.
Oh, so funny. Okay.
Shout out Joe King. I guess it was a quote.
But when you type it out, it kind of hurts more.
Yeah, when I have to read it, it hurts. But basically, I don't think we're dead. And I was having this conversation with Andrew Geller, not Schellenberg, before the show about how a lot of leagues right now, you look at some of these 2-2 teams, they're not dead. The points are very, very kind of bunched together on a lot of my high stakes leagues right now, where guys are kind of closer to one another than maybe in years past. I think that a lot of it's going to come down to, how we do on the waiver wire.
Yeah.
And lineup decisions, I think, also are a big, big factor. This year, I think that a lot of times just making smart and calculated picks up off the waiver wire and using those guys versus maybe using a guy that's been on your bench, things like that are going to help you. I mean, people who picked up Josh Reynolds last week, making little micro changes to your lineup, I think are going to go a long way. Because again, usually one team runs away with it, but then there's other teams who are going to get into the playoffs, and you see a lot of funny things happen late in the season if you just can get there. So This team will keep grinding. We don't want to really give away our waiver wire strategy, but maybe for home leagues tonight, what do you guys think? And I know we're all in some home leagues as well. I'm in two Yahoo leagues that are competitive. Where do you think Mike Boone goes in like a regular 15-man league?
12, 15?
12, yeah.
Yeah, 15. I think 15%ish, something like that.
Oh. You said 15-person league. I got hung up on
15. So we played 20. Usually we talk about 20-man leagues. Not 15 owners, not some like weirdo like, you know. No, I'm in a 12-team PPR league, like a normal league.
I'm all the way back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably 20%. And I don't know if I'm willing to spend it on Mike Boone. I don't know. I mean, I think you've got to have a price enforced bid. My guess is like I would do some price enforcing.
You're asking how much he will go for or how much he should go for. They're very different. Yeah. But I think for teams that are desperate now, they see that they'll throw a 200-300 on them, I think 20-30%.
Yeah.
But you know, Murray's there now too. He's gonna muddy the waters a little bit. Yeah. So I'm not, first off, that whole offense looks like garbage, right? So I don't know. To me, I wouldn't put more than maybe 10% if you're desperate, I guess. If you really have nothing, maybe a little higher, but that's not a guy I'm going big on. To me,
it's also Nathaniel Hackett, who wasn't playing Javonte Williams like we would have used Javonte Williams.
Right.
So we're kind of like asking for, you know,
the third stringer now. Yeah.
We're asking for rational coaching in a place where there's, you know, not a whole lot of it. What's your guys' take on Cortland Sutton? Maybe I'm going to go quick round robin on guys who've gotten good starts. Sutton is now wide receiver 11. It seems like his arrow is kind of pointing up. He's 16 points a game. Do you think that he's going to finish as a wide receiver 1? Do you think he can climb up a little bit?
I'm brink of 1, but I think he's squarely in the 2. And for now in this season, the way it's gone, I think that's a great spot to be.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the arrow is up with him. I mean, you're seeing him dominate there, the targets, and I think Russell's only going to get more comfortable as we move along. I mean, they've looked terrible, you know, early on, but I have no questions on Son. I mean, he's an alpha. He's going to be fine in your lineups.
Maybe
top
that
20, top 15-ish.
That could be what kind of forces Russell Wilson to kind of get going here. Is the fact that Javonte Williams is out. It could be a running back by committee. Maybe you're going to see more targets for the wide receivers. And I think Sutton would be a guy that if I'm a contender on a dynasty team, I'm kicking the tires at the Sutton manager just because he's a little bit older, not quite like that young, exciting level. And I think he could really return some investment there. Andrew, Christian Kirk is off to a fast start. He's a guy that we don't have a whole lot of. What's your thought on him? We'll start out with Schellenberg. You're the Jacksonville guy.
Yeah, I think if you're in Theo's 15-team league, I think he could probably be wide receiver 15 and probably a wide receiver 1 for you. But again, I think that he, to me, is solidly in that. And maybe if you made a list, I'd have 36 wide receiver 2s. But maybe that's just the way the situation. I think he's established himself as like a firm wide receiver 2. I think that you feel great about starting him. Obviously, that didn't work out against a good Eagles pass defense this past week, but a lot of extenuating circumstances there with rain and you know, whatever shitty ball handling with you know, being able to hold on the ball in the rain. But I think he's firmly entrenched there. I think you feel good. I just don't know if the Jaguars quite have the explosiveness to make you think that he's got some kind of unknown ceiling that gets you up into the top 12. Over a full year of football.
Geller, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I feel similar to Shelley there. I mean, I do like Kirk a lot. I think, you know, he's getting fed targets every week. You know, he's the obvious number 1 there. And we've seen Lawrence kind of just improve. I know last week was rough, like you said, but I mean, I think the sky's the limit for him as we move forward. I think that offense is going to get better every week. So I love Kirk. You know, as long as if he's getting that volume, you know, on a weekly basis, he's going to be easily a top 15, 20 receiver. And he was going so cheap in drafts. I mean, he's going to be one of the better bargains of all receivers at the end of the year.
Yeah, Dwayne McFarland tweeted that out. He was like, if you were drafting like a perfect draft, Kirk, you could have gotten in the 6th round an awful lot. And he's on a lot of winning teams right now. So yeah, it's just funny how the Jaguars get like panned for spending all this money on all these free agents. And Christian Kirk has been so impactful, and also Zay Jones has looked good. So right now it looks like people maybe should not have been so quick to judge. I think it was more based on the amount of money they spent, but those guys seem like great fits. I just wanted to go over, we have Romeo Doubs. What do we think we're going to see from Romeo Doubs? I think it's kind of polarizing right now. I'm seeing a guy that I want to have in my lineup. Is that how you guys are seeing it? Or are you any apprehension?
Well, I think he's on the cusp of like the wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 in a line. I think he's certainly on the brink of lineup decisions. I think that if you're putting him in, I think that he's got good upside. I like that Rodgers has made some concerted efforts to get him the ball. I know he didn't hang on to that potentially game-winning touchdown last week, but it looked good. Rodgers threw a good ball. I think Doubs was in a good spot, just didn't obviously get it to the ground. I like the idea of someone being attached to Rodgers that hasn't completely alienated Rodgers yet. He's running good routes, looks good. I mean, the design play for Christian Watson for the run, the running score there was cool for Watson, but I think that Doubs seems to be a real passing threat for the Packers. So I like having him in lineups if that's kind of where your draft structure and I guess wear and tear of the season has led you.
Yeah, I think Shelley summed it up nice. I mean, you get 8 targets, back-to-back weeks, touchdowns in each week, and could have had a third one there. So, I mean, Rodgers clearly is looking for him. He's comfortable with him, and who else is there? He could be the guy there. So, wheels up for sure. I mean, Doubs is a guy. You got him in rounds 11, 12 later on in drafts. I mean, you're loving that. I mean, he's easily, to me,
he looks big too.
Yeah, he looks very good to me. Like he looks talented, and he looks like a guy who's kind of ascending right now. So that's one I'm buying into. I know there's Alan Lazard people, but I think at the end of the day, Doubs would be the wide receiver I would want in Green Bay. And I just I know we've hit the hour mark. What are your guys' thoughts on the Pittsburgh offense with Kenny Pickett taking over? Are we basically our thoughts on Pickens and our thoughts on Deontay Johnson?
Yeah, I'm bullish on Pittsburgh moving forward. I could not believe Trubisky. I even tweeted it before they pulled him. I'm like, there's no way he could start the second half of this game right here. And sure enough, I'm not, a psychic or nothing, but Pickett came in right there. So, I mean, this kid, he's got a nice arm. You could tell he's aware in the pocket. I mean, it's a plus for everyone on that team. Trubisky was just, I mean, he's Baker-esque. He might be worse than Baker Mayfield. Yeah, which is saying a lot. But yeah, I mean, I still wouldn't upgrade Deontay hugely because I do think he's going to take a hit. Big Ben just threw it to him every snap essentially. But I think Pickens, the whole offense probably takes a boost moving forward.
We said it all offseason that Pickens rhymes with Higgins, but it also rhymes with Pickett. So wheels up for Pickens here.
There you go.
100% with you guys. I think it's exciting time to have George Pickens. You've kind of been waiting for it, and you saw it last game, and he's a beast. And I think that offense could support 2 wide receivers. I know that some people are worried about Deontay Johnson. I think he'll get that points per game up.
Yeah.
He's a very, very good player. I just wonder why you wouldn't have Pickett make his debut against the Jets in a winnable game instead of having him, make his first start against Buffalo as a 14-point dog. It just seems like in hindsight, it was bad process by Tomlin there.
I could see that. I think they saw what they had Trubisky was doing. I mean, I was watching a bunch of that game, and he was just awful, like horrific. Yeah. Like they had no chance with him. So to me, they were trying to win that game, I feel like, and they couldn't do it with Trubisky. So they're like, fuck it, let's put the rookie in and see what he can do.
Well, I like that too. He was willing to make mistakes. I mean, I don't think that there should be like grand expectations for the Steelers. Like, I don't think it should matter. But I like the idea of at least, Pickett was willing to make the 3 interceptions, even though he was trying to make a play. And I didn't watch. I will admit, hand up, did not watch the game, but from what I saw in terms of like the interceptions and where the blame lie, as I understand the situation, like, was a lot on the receivers or whatever. And so I like the idea of rookie quarterbacks coming in willing to make a play and not just being like a just absolute coward or whatever, like Trubisky, like not willing to like force throws down the field. And so I think that we should be, again, I'm not going to label him a gunslinger, but I like the idea of someone who is willing to make an effort to get the ball, even if they see a tight window on the receivers. And so I think for that alone, we should be encouraged about the Pittsburgh pass catchers.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm excited. We're talking about going from just horrendous to slightly less horrible, but I think that at least being able to support a second pass catcher is good enough for me.
Yeah.
What about Claypool though? I mean, is Claypool just dead? Like, what happened to Claypool here? We had high hopes for him.
I think Claypool's dead because I think that at the end of the day, Pickens is going to continue to move forward, and you also have to factor in Pat Freiermuth. Right now is a top 8 tight end. So I don't see Claypool having any kind of consistency unless there's an injury to Deontay Johnson or Pickens moving forward. So
he looked so good though his rookie year. I mean, you thought the sky was the limit.
Oh my gosh, I love Claypool, but at the end of the day, I think that for whatever reason, it just isn't happening, and they used to pick on Pickens, and I think that's kind of all she wrote for Claypool.
Yeah,
Deontay Johnson commands targets, and now you have another very good player there, and you also have the fact that, like we said, Freiermuth is a weekly target guy. So shout out to Snooze. My God, if Claypool just got moved to tight end, I mean we're standing on our head to get him right now though. That would be absolutely amazing.
That's true.
And shout out to Joe King. Pittsburgh doesn't like Claypool. I think I might agree with that. I mean, you saw the penalty. They were in hurry up mode to end the season last year, and he was slow getting to the line. I mean, all kinds of bad signs there.
That's a guy I could see kind of go to a different team, and kind of reboost his career, if you will, because there's talent there. He's a big guy. He could run. I mean, he shouldn't be this.
He could be next year's Zay Jones. I mean,
there you go. Yeah, there you go.
So, guys, we're at an hour 07. Any updates with the baseball team? Any good things happen since we?
Minaya is not doing too bad. I got some guys still creeping up on me in the standing, so it's definitely getting a little more uncomfortable. But we'll see. I still feel good. Nice. We'll see this time tomorrow. We'll see what that looks like. But yeah, it's going.
All right, two other nonsenses. One, I need to share with you guys a dead body. This is a screenshot of my main event and football guys teams this past week. Just like absolute just horror show of main events.
It's just horrible.
It just this was ours, the 122.3 to 125.7. If only Lawrence hadn't fumbled the ball and thrown an interception 5 different turnovers, or Kittle would drag the foot.
But Andrew, you also have a 109.6 to 108.55 loss.
But look, no, the worst is the 85. What is that? I need to go back.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, with my teams, it's definitely not off to the start I would like, but I'm finding like my points scored is pretty solid, but I got just smashed by the schedule. I have like a lot of 1 and 3 teams that are like 4 seeds. And you don't ever want to close off, the one avenue to get into the dance, right, with the record.
That's right.
So you don't want to have to rely on getting in on points only. So 1 and 3, to me, 1 and 4 is the death knell in the 12-week season. So you're up against it right now. After 1 and 3, you don't want to, like I said, close the door on the record, but you might have to sooner than later. Just keep scoring. Yeah.
All right. What my one last nonsense is, Gilds, what's your favorite Twitter GIF that you like describing, either trolling somebody or championing something? Is it the high dive belly flop? Is it the Ace Ventura? Like what's your favorite go-to GIF
I feel like that. Yeah, that's kind of my signature is the face plant into the water there. And I remember when I first did that, it got like a huge response. I'm like, I don't know what I searched for something like, face plant, belly flop, water, and that just popped up. I'm like, this is perfect. And then I just put it up there, and it got a big crowd reaction there. But that's probably my go-to. Anytime one of my pitchers gets bombed,
it's the pitchers get bombed that you do that.
That's it. Yeah. Yes. That's my go-to.
Yeah.
So
I love it. All right. Thanks for indulging my nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for everybody for tuning in. This was a lot of fun. The Goat District will be back Thursday night. We have Pete Overzet coming on for a tailgate show. That should be a lot of fun. I think we're starting at 7:15. We'll tweet it out. Andrew Geller, great, really, really best of luck. Crush it tonight, crush it tomorrow. We're all pulling for you. Andrew Schellenberg, I will be texting you tomorrow for our waiver wire bids. We're gonna get after it. We're gonna keep grinding. Good luck to everybody. Good luck to everybody in the chat with your waiver wire bids this week. Let's all keep grinding. Let's all have a great season. Have a good night.
Most of all, Guilds. Go Guilds.
Go Guilds.
Go Guilds.
One time.
One time that we